Alrighty, so we are a little past 2 o'clock at this point, so we're going to get started. This week, just a very brief topic, really. We're going to kind of go over those payroll policy reminders that are in effect now. I'm going to just kind of harp on those one final time since they have started, so there are no surprises, anything like that. And then I am going to hit on a topic this week about processing times and payroll relief. We've been having a lot of questions about this lately. Things like, hey, this has been scheduled. Why hasn't it happened yet? Or, hey, I scheduled this for Friday and funds come out of my account. What's going on? So we're just going to kind of try to clear up processing times, payroll, tax, a couple different topics, basically all the different kind of things we can do in the system. I might have a couple actually extra topics that are not on my slides that I just kind of ramble about as we go along today. Yeah, that'll kind of just be the focus. It's going to be kind of a technical session and just a couple reminders about our new policies. So without further ado, all right. So we need to be getting payroll prior to 12 p.m. If you are wanting a pre-approval. This is one of the new policies we have pushed out. The reason why is just a simple matter of we want to be able to actually have the time to look it over, look for errors, send it to you, have your time to look it over and check for errors, and then send it back to us and be able to say, XYZ is incorrect or hey, it's all good. It's hard to do that if we get a payroll at about 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. and we're kind of crunched down on that time for processing pre-approvals. So, and we don't want to get into a situation where I'm sending a pre-approval at 4, you don't see it till 6, the office is closed, and you go, whoa, whoa, hold on, what's going on? So we're really trying, if you're going to go through the pre-approval process, please be sending these in before noon. If you process your own payroll and you want us to do a pre-approval process, you can get to that stage where you have submitted the payroll. If I see something has been submitted, it does not matter if you guys process or if we process, I send a pre-approval report. It bundles everything into a handy dandy report. And I find that, basically I'm seeing submitted, I'm sending it out, then you're getting this report and it's going to say, here's everything that's going on in your payroll. And I have had folks who I'm not necessarily the one typing in the hours, but I am the one doing this review process. And they've reached out to me before and said, hey, I've made mistakes on this payroll. Thanks for sending me the report. So that's really what we're trying to do. It's just a nice way of minimizing errors on your end, on our end. We're basically double checking each other then. And then, ideally you're going to have less issues on a payroll because we're actually giving it a review process and not just throwing it to the wind. We really, really, really want this review process to be part of how we run payroll. I do not want to skip this process. It gives us a lot of peace of mind of, hey, everybody's looked at it, it's been reviewed. If you do approve it, we're counting that as you've signed off on it and we're sending it through. We have 2 hours to unapprove it if you were to realize, oh gosh, there's something going on here. But just be aware of that. Really look it over. Please, please, please don't just see it come through and go, yeah, approved. Because then if there is an hour on there, we have an approval message from you and we're basically going to say, hey, we thought it was good. I'm sorry. So don't just push them through. Please look it over. Please make sure that report is reflecting what you want. And then if it's good to go, you say, hey, we're good. And if not, you can tell me, so and so needs different amount of hours, so and so needs overtime, etc. Time sheets submitted after 5 are going to be on you guys to submit. Our office closes at 5 p.m. Central, and there's been a lot of calling folks on personal cell phones and trying to get everything squared away before that happens. And you guys are able to go into that system and submit your own payrolls. So if you are not able to get that in before our office closes, we're going to just hope that you guys, go in and process that yourselves, or you can get with us and let us know the next day and we can get something worked out, either paper check or processed a day late. It's just, once we hit close of business and folks aren't responding and stuff like that, it gets very hard to collect all the payrolls. And so please, if you're doing that, try to get them in, because then we have exactly 2 hours and then the whole system shuts down entirely. We're really trying to get everything in and buttoned up by 5, so no one is sitting out there at 6:58 going, oh my God, is my payroll going to get submitted on time before the system shuts down? We do not want anyone to be in that kind of situation. We really want everything to be buttoned up by the end of the day so everyone can go home, know their employees are getting paid, feel good about their payroll, and then say, all right, Volpe's taking care of it. We're really just, pushing these times because we do not want there to be anyone not getting paid. That bothers me just as much as it bothers you. I do not want there to be anyone not getting paid. So please, and if you are in a situation where you're not able to get all this submitted because of technical issues, please just communicate with me, reach out. I'm going to work with you. If it gets to a point of like you're usually submitting your own hours and you have to send each one by me in an email and I have to type them in, that's totally fine as long as you're notifying me and just letting me know, hey, I'm having tech issues. I'm never going to hold technology being uncooperative against you. So just try to keep us in the loop, and we're going to work with you as much as we humanly can to make sure payroll gets in. Again, I don't want anyone not getting paid. It bothers me. I don't like seeing that kind of stuff, hanging out on payroll after I go home. I check my emails and my payroll afterwards. So, it bothers me a lot. I don't want to see folks not getting paid. So please, 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 if there's anything going on, if there's any sort of, I can't get logged in, I'm having problems, please reach out to me. I'm going to make it happen with you. Just make sure you're communicating with us so I can, basically, I will make sure that we spend a little extra time on it if I'm aware that there is some sort of problem going on that has prevented you from doing something. I don't want it to slip because of that. So that's all we're really going for is those deadlines. If you get it to us past noon, we will still process it. You're just not going to be getting that pre-approval. If you get it to me 12:10, I probably will send you pre-approval still. We're really just trying to get that second half of the day so everyone can take a look at it. So, yeah. The next phase of our policy is going to be we're still trying to get those logins for tax accounts. I really want to stress to everyone, we are paying taxes through payroll relief. We are not paying through these tax accounts unless you have a manual tax and we have notified you of it. So don't think, it's not getting paid. What we're trying to do with this is make it so if the state were to send us a refund, a notice, anything, I can log into the account, I can cross-reference it, and we can say, hey, actually, there was a 941X sent in, please don't refund this money. Or, hey, actually, there was no 941 sent in because this business wasn't in operation, nothing is owed. We need to be able to have that so we can really get the full picture. And that will allow us to kind of make these tax issues just a lot smoother. There are tons of times where the government sends a bunch of very scary notices and everything gets to be very messy and we're calling and trying to get a POA. And then once it gets down to brass tacks, I'm able to log into the tax account and we see, nothing's wrong. So that's really all we want to be able to do is be able to, access that account, see how it's looking from your end, see what the state is actually saying about it, and be able to have that full picture when that kind of stuff happens. If you haven't sent us these, please send them in. They're very important. They will just make tons of issues way smoother. It's just really a compliance confirmation, essentially, is the way you should think about it. If you don't get them to us by like the end of the quarter or anything, that's not going to stop us from filing new taxes. Unless we've said to you, hey, this is a manual tax, we need this, or we're not going to be able to pay it. We're going to be able to pay your taxes, file those taxes. They should be coming out of your payroll accounts. Nothing has changed on that front. There have been no changes. It is just a confirmation. So we've been having a lot of issues lately, or not issues, questions actually, about processing times and payroll relief. So it'll be things like, how come my paychecks, pull on X date and they pay out on Y date? How come my taxes pulled on X date? All kinds of stuff like that. And I know there's a ton of automated emails that come from our payroll relief system that pretty much say, hey, take the money out of the account right now, right as things start to happen. And so I just kind of want to clear up how all this works. Everything does have slightly different processing times. It can actually vary from client to client, but I'm going to kind of just give a general overview so everybody is aware how it just kind of functions within the system. We don't have any same day processing. So if you have like an emergency payroll or anything that you need to run, so for example, maybe someone forgot, your timekeeper forgot to add on someone's overtime and you need to get that overtime added on, or a sick day was left off, we can make edits. you're not going to be able to get that direct deposit information immediately. That is just not something that we can do on our end. We can do paper checks, and then you guys can, pay those out through a check, through Venmo, whatever works to get the employee their net pay. We can do a couple things that can allow you to get payroll on the same day, but it isn't going to be that direct deposit method. That's just not something Payroll Relief can pull off. The quickest they can do, like feasibly, is 2 days. They can do 2 days as fast as possible. Like if you were in an absolute bind and it was under, you had the 2 day time period before payroll, we could help you out with that. We're just not going to be able to expedite it to same day processing. This includes payrolls, payroll corrections. Tax payments are not same day, and they also can't be pushed to that 2 day. I will kind of get into them a little later. Everything is going to have just slightly different times. So when it comes to tax payments, they take a full 4 days. They are not going to be able to be expedited. The reason for this is actually because when you do those shorter time periods, so the 3 day and the 2 day, Payroll Relief will actually spot you the money and like pay out your payroll if they catch it, or if they don't catch it in time. Basically, they're taking all their money, fronting it for your employees, debiting the money for themselves. And if they don't catch it in time, they'll pay out for your employees, and then they will start demanding a wire with increasing fees. And so the reason that they don't let us do tax payments on 2 or 3 day times is because a lot of times tax payments are reattempts. So someone's account has bounced or something like that. And they want that full 4 day processing time so they don't get into a bind where they're demanding wire money from you and you don't have money to pay. So they're trying to avoid that scenario. They're wanting to be able to get to like day 2, see that the money is bounced again, and be able to return that money to your account and go, sorry, it didn't work. And it's just, the taxes can be a little touchier than payroll. So they're just trying to maximize that safe time period to take a look at those tax reattempts. The other thing to note that's very, very important, they can pull any day from day 1 4 during this time period. There's kind of an interaction between banks and Payroll Relief sometime that can shift these times. We really try not to give anyone like a concrete, sure, it's going to pull on day 1 or sure, it's going to pull on day 4 because of that. I don't want to tell you, yeah, it's going to pull immediately. You move all those funds and it pulls on Wednesday or something crazy. Or I tell you, yeah, it's going to pull on day 4 and then they all get pulled on the first day. So that is why Payroll Relief will typically send out these emails that say something like, make sure all the funds are in your account now. They're trying to avoid that as well. If you schedule a payment for 1/1, so if I go in and I'm like, I need to make a tax payment 1/1, January 26th, everything is going to be completed by 1/1. So you really should expect that those funds get pulled before then, that everything starts getting allocated prior to that 1/1 date. Don't think it's going to hit 1/1 and then everything's going to happen instantly, because that is not how the system works. It is going to try to prep everything to be in date with that processing date. So, if I make processing date next Friday, it's going to have everything in order before next Friday. It's not going to do it all on that date. So I've had some folks try to schedule reattempts, and they are confused on why funds pulled sooner or later than they thought. And it's because this processing date, it's trying to get everything set up on that 4 day period before that date. The system will also sometimes attempt these automatically. If we notice that happening, we'll let you know. We usually get a return notice. And if I see a return, I go in and I see another attempt pending. I'll typically just say, hey, there was a return. They are trying to redebit it. Make sure those funds are in your account. But also, if it has been, I believe it's a large enough bounce, or if it's happened enough times, they'll just shut everything off and they'll make us do it manually. And that's another thing to note. If you bounce on tax payments or even just payrolls enough times, they'll turn off the EFT program, and they'll basically say, you have to provide us a reason that this won't happen again. And if it happens enough times and we keep providing them the same reason, they'll just shut it off and say no direct deposits for this person. So this is really just kind of a long and archaic process to avoid that from happening, where Payroll Relief shuts that down. And so we're trying to just make sure none of that happens to anybody. We've gotten to that point once or twice where we've had to tell them, hey, I'm sorry, we've explained this now, it's not going to happen again. And, we don't want to get anyone in a bind where they've said, well, that's the 3rd time you've told us this, and so we're shutting off the EFT application. So that's just something to keep in mind when this is all going on if you're having issues. Payroll and payroll corrections. Most of our clients are on a 2 to 3 day processing time. You can be on a 4 day time as well, just like those tax payments. These are the 3 times that payroll relief offers. So most of our folks are on a 2 to 3 day time period, depending on how your bank is validated, most likely. If you had to do that pre-note validation, it is going to be on a 2 to 3 day processing time, or it's going to be on a 3 day processing time. I'm sorry, I misspoke there. And if you did it with the real-time validation, that's how you get that 2 day. Payroll relief actually does not recommend the 2 day validation time unless you know that those funds are going to be in the account, because that is the highest chance for you getting into that situation where you pay out a payroll and then they start demanding a wire back from you guys. And that can get really aggressive on payroll relief end really quickly. So we just really want to warn everyone of that situation. We don't want you incurring additional fees from payroll relief because they're upset about those wire fees being fronted by their end. So just if you've got that 2 day processing time, be aware of that. Try to have those funds all in the account as early as you possibly can. They typically take 1 day to pull when it comes to payrolls. They can pull the day of. It sort of seems when the payroll is processed does influence that. So if you get processed really early in the day, there's a higher chance of it pulling that same day. And if you get processed really late in the day, there's a higher chance of it being the next day. But the point here being, it can vary a lot. So we typically tell people, yeah, it's usually that immediate next day that the funds pull, but I do not want to guarantee that. That is just sort of, what we have noticed as a pattern, not necessarily a guarantee. So due to that, we are going to side with payroll relief and say, since it's inconsistent, always make sure those funds are in your bank account before processing. Like I said, a lot of this has to do with what bank you have, how it interacts with payroll relief, their ACH nonsense and all that. So, try to make sure that those funds are in your account as soon as you get that little notification from payroll relief that says, hey, get those funds in your account. That's just the guaranteed way of never having this issue. And so it's the safest way to protect yourself from having to wire funds to payroll relief. And just a little note on taxes. This is sort of a similar topic, but I just want to kind of bring it back up. Tax filings, they're also going to have a processing time. If you get our automated messages, you might see some rejection notices going through. We have started filing a lot of things early, just to kind of get that maximized time on rejection notices, because what will usually happen is they'll reject it. They will send it back with an error code. I'll be able to interpret that error code and say, okay, this person had an incorrect social security number. This person had, it could be any number of things. They're not the correct state, and they're on this state form. It could be a slew. And so we'll be able to see that rejection error. We'll hopefully get that back soon enough that it's not anywhere near a deadline. We'll be able to reach out to you and we'll say, hey, we got this rejection error. Can you get the employee's social security number? Can you make sure their address is correct? Whatever the error has told us. And so then we can work with you and get that resolved, and everything will be done. We can start processing it before the due date, and then we'll have that nice check mark before it's even April 31st for those Q1 tax due dates. Just kind of a note, again, they have a processing time. You might see some notifications. You might see both rejections and acceptances. So that's what that is. That's what's going on with that. We will let you know if we need any input from you guys. But yeah, that's just kind of something coming up, and I kind of wanted to squeeze it in on this topic. I guess the only other thing I'd have to say when it comes to processing times is new employees. If you can get new employees in a few days before a payroll, it's going to be great, because when we get them in, especially if you're uploading your data into a system and we're having to pull it in an Excel sheet, I might pull it, see that you have employees that you haven't sent over yet, and we're going, oh, shoot, we need to get those in as soon as possible in case there are any errors, in case there are any hangups. Sometimes I get direct deposit information. We throw it in the system, and the system immediately goes, that's a wrong routing number. And then we have to kind of call you, try to figure out what the routing number is. You might have to call the employee. We're really trying to, excuse me, really trying to avoid, us having to do a rigmarole with you, 5 p.m. on payroll processing day, where I'm going, can you call Steve and try to get his routing number and, try to make sure that this routing number matches what he's got. That's, that can be stressful for you. It can be stressful for the employee. We don't want to have to do that to you. So try to get those in on time. Then I can let you know, hey, hey, another good example is you might not have thought that this remote employee would need to be registered with the state, but if you're able to send it in with plenty of time, I can tell you, hey, this person's working out of state, we need to get you registered in that state for taxes. It could be all kinds of things. So just try to get us that new hire information as quickly as you possibly can. Honestly, as soon as the employee hands it to you, please turn around and hand it to us, because then we can get them in. We can get them all set up. Then if there was anything looking strange, we could tell you right away, and you can get with the employee and make sure that we didn't have like a typo or, routing number lost some zeros just in an Excel sheet transition or something like that. So, just something to keep in mind, the new employees. But yeah, I think that'll be our final slide. Yes, it is. So thanks everybody for watching. This will be posted up on YouTube. We'll have another one of these wonderful webinars again at 2 p.m. Central Time next Friday on our next topic. So I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and I will hopefully see you next Friday.